All right, let's go back to poor Phil. Like, he's so sad, and he keeps like putting his hand there. Like, he's so sad. Everyone's been.
You don't know what I'm leading our church in South Africa when we received a call asking us to help look after our church globally at the end of 2021, with a focus on Australia. And guys, what a wild ride it's been.
What a wild ride.
Sometimes I've called it the haunted house ride. I literally just don't know what's around the next corner.
You are not the only one.
In order to fulfill the requirements of this role while also endeavouring to maintain a healthy marriage and family, Lucinda and I and our board had some clear guidelines. The first one was, I don't travel alone. It's just not a healthy way to do things.
Oh, for God's sake.
Secondly, my travel schedule, thank you for a few people clapping. My wife would be clapping at that one.
Jealous.
My travel schedule is approved by members of our board. If I travel internationally, I travel business class simply because I'm going somewhere to work and I have limited time.
Oh
my ministry leave to preach at other churches is approved by our chairman. Last year, Lucinda and I did travel regularly to South Africa because we were endeavouring to manage both the responsibilities of this role and the needs of our family and our church in South Africa. And there were extra travel costs associated with that. We've now consolidated our family in Sydney, and so that level of travel between here and South Africa has reduced.
What about Buenos Aires and stuff?
Last year, I only spoke in one church other than a Hillsong church.
That's crazy. Oh, God.
That was in Guatemala. And over 60% of that flight was covered by the church in Guatemala. I've also paid a portion of that flight myself to cover costs of my daughter flying with me. The rest was covered by our global church budget as I went to do ministry in both our church in Sao Paulo and Buenos Aires. In fact, that trip involved 9 different flights, and not all of them were business class.
Oh, no.
I spoke and engaged in ministry work every day except one.
Wow.
And anyone who has done any kind of travel knows that this is tough on your body and it's unsustainable. But I also want to say we are committed to managing our travel requirements effectively with flight times and associated costs and seeing where we can adjust so that...
Do you reckon he got a love offering when he went to Guatemala?
Less. The harsh reality is that post-COVID world travel costs have been really high.
They have been high. So why don't you stay home?
Secondly, I did ask that on some of these trips, my traveling companion would be my daughter.
My daughter.
Our family was separated for much of last year, and this was an opportunity for us to be together.
I see.
I do not take that lightly, and it is not always the case, and not always the case going to be the case going forward.
Mate,
other times, other members of our team have travelled with me, and they will continue to. Why do we do this? Because the demands of this role are high, and if health is a priority, then we have to find ways to ensure we can stay healthy in order to serve our church effectively.
Why do the members of the team fly business class as well, though?
No, but I don't understand why the daughter's going with.
And why does she need business class?
They've got 3.
The same travel policy of carefully considering flight costs will apply for travel to other churches when they may invite me to speak and minister. I want to ensure we do the right thing by them, as this is church money. It's not mine. And I want to ensure we are good stewards both ways.
If you're invited by somebody to perform...
I want to quote from some of what is now on public record, courtesy of Mr. Wilkie.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie.
The current global senior pastor, Phil Dooley, was the founder and head pastor of Hillsong Church, South Africa. Despite operating in a country experiencing significant poverty and disadvantage, Dooley prescribed to a Hillsong culture focusing on spending significant amounts of money on guest speaker honorariums, green room catering, entertainment, gifts, meals, and guest relations.
He's not wrong, though.
When we left Sydney in 2008 for South Africa,
he's not denying it.
Our intention was to do nothing more than to go on an adventure serving God and building church that would serve the people of South Africa and help them to know Jesus. Our kids were 3, 6, and 8. We left all we had and we simply moved to serve the people of South Africa to the best of our ability. There is no mention anywhere in the table of information that has been put in public domain, of how we started church in South Africa.
No.
It actually wasn't in a building, it was a campsite
Wow.
with refugees from other African nations.
Nice.
We arrived in a country in difficult times with xenophobic attacks happening around us.
Big words.
Africans from other nations were being attacked, and the government, to protect them, was rounding them up in big army trucks and placing them in makeshift refugee camps. And before we'd even started Sunday services, we went to those campsites and asked if we could somehow be of assistance. And we received a resounding yes. And then we did our best to care for those people. We gave out Bibles. We did programs for the kids who were displaced and couldn't go to school. We sang songs with them. We played games. We partnered with Joyce Meyer Ministries. We gave out blankets and brought gas cookers to help with meals. And we hadn't even started Sunday services.
Oh, my God.
We simply shared what we were doing via email or SMS with those who were interested in being part of our church. There actually was no social media then. It's crazy. And people came and joined us and helped and served. Our church grew in South Africa. And so we attempted some crazy things like building accommodation for physically disabled kids at Tembeletu School, and our global church got behind this project. This building is still there today. We built it and paid for it before we had any buildings of our own, and we gave it to the South African Department of Education. We covered the first 2 years of operational costs of this facility that hosts 42 physically disabled students full-time, and all their carers and associated needs.
But that doesn't
And they're some of the most beautiful and special kids you'll ever meet. And we hosted Colour Conference for the women of Africa, and we found ways to include the poorest of the poor by providing free transportation and a meal at a very low cost of registration that would be equivalent to between $5 and $10 Australian dollars, and we carried the cost of that as a church. We held a Christmas spectacular each year at an arena, and again asked, how do we give access to the poorest of the poor so they can come and experience this? And it cost us, it cost our church, but we did it because we were trying to make the experience of our church as accessible as possible in a country that has great disparity between rich and poor.
He lives in one of the most.
And we believe the church can fill the gap between the two.
The kids went to private.
During COVID, we partnered with other organizations and gave out 6 million meals. We've given out wheelchairs to those in need over the years. We've established a program called iHub, teaching young people digital skills so they can get jobs in a country with 60% youth unemployment. And then we did manage to buy some buildings. We bought a former nightclub, and I don't own that building. The church does. I get no personal benefit from it whatsoever, but the people of South Africa do, and they will continue to benefit from it long after I've gone.
How long will that be, do you reckon?
Notice how most people aren't actually
And
clapping.
so it is with all of these buildings that we have across Australia. They aren't owned by any one of us. They're for the benefit of the church and the community.
What about all the other properties?
And they will be here for generations to come.
Is that document
Personally, I love seeing this building that I'm in at Christmas time, covered in Christmas lights, with thousands of members of the community enjoying the spectacle with family and friends and coming along to our Christmas spectacular.
Those Christmas lights.
And here in Australia, we've been tireless in our commitment to give back to our communities and to those in need around the world. Some of our social programs include scripture teachers in schools bringing a message of hope to Jesus. That's schools in New South Wales, and just being there to care for young people. Chaplains serving in hospitals, sports groups, aged cares, prisons, community groups who are fully committed to caring, supporting those who are struggling or facing challenges and difficulties in life.
Giving the message of
Dude,
Hillsong.
your
assisted a family from
war-torn
war-torn Kiev to resettle and set up home and start a new life here in Australia.
Cool.
We're helping support our church in Kiev, Ukraine, financially and through various aid programs as they continue to help people during this horrific conflict.
I hope so.
The church
Every month at our Hills campus, we support the vital work of Australian Red Cross with the Lifeblood Bus. Blood donations for people who need it. We support people starting out in business through our Business Connect groups, facilitating faith, wisdom, community amongst this group of men and women. We have our Shine and our Strength programs for adolescent young women and men, developing self-esteem and resilience for vulnerable youth. And we do that all across the country. We're creating Safe Spaces, a program for young people in local communities
Certain vulnerable
that
people.
we're a part of, providing breakfast programs, sports competition, and hangouts after school. We support and participate in the vital government agency of advocacy of Micah Australia as they advocate on behalf of countries currently experiencing famine. This year alone, the Albanese government committed 40 million in aid to the Horn of Africa, flood-ravaged Pakistan, and war-torn Yemen. Our youth groups are a key focus.
What's the
So
Albanese
the young
government
people are
got to do with
engaged
what
in
you guys are
positive
doing?
activities and broaden their relationships with their peers and mentors. And just last month, our Hills youth pastors met with the Castle Hill Youth Liaison Police Officer for over an hour because he wanted to introduce himself and share what he does and how he can help our leaders and students. He appreciates the work Hillsong Youth does.
That
He
must have
mentioned
cost
that when he has
thousands.
youth who need some love and care, he'll call us to help with mentorship.
He won't.
It's just trying to be
He's the
a
liaison.
church in the local community.
That's what he does.
As a local police officer, he sees the benefit of partnership, being in local areas like where the metro stations are, to build connections with young people, as well as the high school Shine and Strength programs that we run through City Care. He really appreciates it.
Really shouldn't be.
Get out
He
of our
offered to come
schools,
down to
yo.
youth on a Friday night regularly when he's on shift to continue to build connections with local young people and to impart encouragement and skills in our youth leaders regarding mental health issues. There are so many different things that we've been involved in. We're a member group of the Christians United for Afghanistan campaign, along with other Christian denominations, campaigning for more Afghan refugees being given a visa to Australia. An additional 31,500 places have now been made for vulnerable Afghan people. And we can do that.
He deserves to fly business.
You may not know this, but Hillsong Church is the first church in Australia to be recognised as a skilled workplace for mental health first aid program.
Oh
We're
my
committed
God,
to effective and sustainable mental health care for all our congregations.
No, you're not.
It's a
We
first aid.
provide emergency food relief. I know you know much of this, to people in our church and wider community.
Where does
And
that-
we're thankful for the generosity and support of our church members. We are actively involved in practically assisting those in need with the devastating floods that happened last year across northeastern Australia.
Just using volunteers' resources.
And we've partnered with World Vision
It's got nothing to do
in
with
different circumstances.
World
With,
Vision.
with
Here we go.
challenges that happened in the Philippines in recent years, and right now assisting with the devastation of what's been happening in Syria and
It means
Turkey.
nothing. I don't know what this all
In
means.
fact, we've got an update from the CEO of
Yeah.
World Vision, Daniel, and I want you just to have a look at the
That's just a
screen.
massive evangelical church, World Vision.
Hi,
All
Hillsong
it is.
Church. It's Daniel from World Vision.
I'm skipping there.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the survivors
They're
whose
just a
lives were
massive
upended
evangelical
by the earthquakes in Syria and Turkey.
Church. Hang on, I'm
We
skipping
are
that.
so
Bill.
grateful
Really.
for your
I
generosity.
can't really
prayer,
hear what you're saying. Huh?
And we do things on a really practical level as well.
Oh, here we
We
go.
have transitional housing and casework for women and their children escaping domestic violence as they seek to establish a safe life in a
Like
new
the
community.
programs that are
Our pastors have been trained in a range of courses, including suicide prevention, domestic violence, and gambling support.
by whom, for
Our
how
multicultural ministry provides pastoral care support and facilitates access to various social supports for people from non-English speaking
Why are you getting pastoral care?
backgrounds.
They don't want pastoral care.
We deliver
want
hampers to our
food.
local police stations to thank them for their vital work during high stress and high demand seasons like Easter and Christmas. And last year, 594 families who'd been doing it tough received a beautiful Christmas hamper.
Who
On
paid?
top of this, many thousands of goods were given to individuals and families in our wider community
no cost
through
to
our
Hillsong.
care arm, City Care.
No.
We have supported asylum seekers and people being detained at Villawood Detention Centre for over 20 years. In fact, we have a church service happening in Villawood right now, and we want to give a big hello, we love you, and God bless you to everyone in Villawood. We've had a church service in there caring for people for years.
I'm the vulnerable. I need more chocolate.
Our pastors have made thousands of appointments and phone calls and visitations to support people and offer pastoral care. We have pastors rostered on after hours 7 days a week. Thousands of adults have been educated in both our full-time and evening college. Courses such as English as a second language and other skills-based courses are offered. And over the years, our conferences have attracted thousands of visitors.
That doesn't mean anything.
Many coming to Australia for the first time.
And
that's added
of
significant
slaves,
economic benefit to our
college
country.
students.
Plus, we support the work of A21, preventing human trafficking, Vision Rescue, as you know, providing food and education to vulnerable children in India. We support compassion, child sponsorships, and the work that we're doing in the Hillsong Africa Foundation.
Poor Phil, he's so tired.
There's so many things that we're a part of. We're
We need
committed to
coffee.
preventing the crime of modern-day slavery. We're a founding member of the Australian Freedom Network in 2016 when it began, which supported the introduction and implementation of a modern slavery act for Australia. Plus, there's all the incredible work that our global churches are doing, amazing initiatives to help and assist where they are.
Churches.
The cynicism of the information supplied by Mr. Wilkie suggests that I moved to South Africa for some form of self-enrichment, and that it is the motivation of any or all of our pastors and staff, and that's pretty hard to take.
No, okay.
My family and I are grateful Australians, grateful for all this country offers, and also aware of the responsibility we have in this country with so much to make a difference in countries where they have big need, and we'll always choose to be generous in that regard.
Hey, Phil, what have you done for HIV prevention?
Information
in South Africa?
also states that I was part of a celebrity preacher's reciprocal honorarium rort. It's not easy to say.
No. They just do that.
And then mentions that I received honorariums. This is fully declared income, and the small sums we've received by way of honorarium are declared as is required by law, and I would be very happy to share that information with Mr. Wilkie.
Okay. What about?
I've never asked for an honorarium and never expected an honorarium for speaking.
I'm sorry.
And I want to say to
I
our
don't believe
congregation
that.
here in Australia, look at how your pastors live.
Let's be real now.
Does it look lavish?
Yes,
Or does it look like they are good, honest, hardworking people doing their best as ministers of the gospel of Jesus to serve their communities and congregants while also raising their own families?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look like that at all. It looks like they're celebrities.
I also want to be clear that in my role, I have no intention of being on the circuit,
You already
of being
are.
invited and traveling to speak at conferences so I can gain personally from this. In fact, we have a policy that holds Lucinda and I accountable for all our travel and ministry, and we are happy with that because it protects us and looks after our well-being. Our focus is our church, not the circuit.
He's so confused.
And
by
in
this.
line with this, in October, we updated our gifts policy and our honorariums policy. And Lucinda and I, stepping into this role full-time from February this year, any honorariums we receive go back to church. We're scrutinizing every expense to ensure that it is going to effective mission-focused ministry endeavors.
That.
It's not an honorarium
I'm
anymore. it's a
also
bonus.
announcing today that on top of the forensic audit that has been conducted by Grant Thornton regarding the allegations, we will be beginning this week a complete reevaluation via an outside third party of our financial structure and systems to ensure they line up with the mission going forward. The question
Don't
we're asking,
care
I
about your
mentioned already,
mission.
is how do we
Care
do
about
better
your
with
legal
less?
obligations.
So Andrew Wilkie was
We
right.
take our financial
Yeah.
stewardship seriously.
That's what it sounds like.
So
In
our-
tough economic seasons, we know it's a sacrifice to give.
Still 12 minutes.
We
this-
honor the sacrificial giving of you, the faithful members of our church, and we meet it with a new level of diligence while continuing to be generous to those who are in need.
What's the bet this is leading into an offering?
There is a cost to all of this,
Oh, here we go.
a personal
go.
cost to those who continue to show up as part of Hillsong Church. It's a cost to your mental health and to that of your kids.
Sure is.
And I ask the media to consider the way they present things and do so with respect, recognizing they have a significant duty of care.
As do you, mate. As do
Hillsong has
you.
been bashed in public media for
That's
years
right.
now.
That's
Oh.
exactly right.
Maybe some of it's warranted, but a lot of it is unfair, unwarranted, and completely untrue.
Is it? Like what?
Recently,
Imagine.
we were even accused of having a rape culture.
No.
That's pretty horrible to say.
That's
I mean,
horrible.
I'm pretty sure Carl Lentz
As a
is,
senior
you know,
pastor of
I mean,
Hillsong, I want all women to feel safe in our church, and we strongly advocate against, violence against women
Doesn't
and
get
children. We advocate
Get
for
it.
you.
Thank you.
I
And
have
let's-
two daughters,
let's
and
put
of course,
photos
I
of
would not
only
want
women
them
and
to be
children
part of a
behind
place
me
with
as
this
well
kind
when I
of
talk about
culture.
this.
It's simply not who we are.
It is who you are, Phil.
Our
Yeah.
Hillsong College has had over 14,000 students attend since its years of existence.
Hi.
And I was right there at the beginning, Power Ministry School.
That's
Shout
beautiful.
out to the alumni.
Okay, Phil. Look,
And the huge majority of them have loved the experience.
Have
And many are serving God in ministry roles all over the world today.
Many.
A small
But not
number have
most.
on occasion made complaints, as happens in any institution. And when this has happened, we have listened and sought to understand. Even
you haven't.
using outside investigators, seeking their recommendations and making necessary changes
No, you haven't.
to ensure the health and well-being of all the students who attend.
You don't give a crap about the health and well-being of
There's
your
a personal
students.
toll for the constant criticism and undermining of pretty much anything we as a church attempt to do.
anything we do, anything.
And yet
we
our
do.
local police know that we work with them regularly on matters regarding the care and welfare of people in our community, as I've already mentioned.
Horrible King hit him, and
There are many community programs and initiatives we engage in that never get mentioned by the media and probably never will.
just like a mum.
And I want to say to the young people of our church, we understand you're in a pretty vulnerable season, and for some of you it has been
Oh,
awful.
God.
What you've experienced, being bullied for your faith and attendance at Hillsong Church, and we're truly sorry for
It's a
this.
sign, Phil. Do you know what I
And
mean?
here is just one story from one of our pastors who is also a parent in our church.
Also a parent.
My son was with a group of mates at school, and it was when our church was getting negative press. At that time, one of his best mates' dad had just died tragically and very suddenly while undergoing an operation. And all his friends were in the playground with the boy at school, hanging out, talking about it and how sad it was. And one boy said to my son, "Yeah, I wish it was your dad who died. Then we wouldn't have Hillsong."
It's a bit rough.
My son was shocked by this,
What's the point of
especially
this
when he was
story?
trying to comfort his grieving best mate.
How does he think knocking off
Some
one
of his friends defended him, but my son was devastated by what had been said. And when he heard this and came home, he was angry and he was upset. We had to make an official complaint to the school, and we had to have a lot of ongoing chats with my son about our church, the media, and people's perceptions. And this was a very real and confronting time of pain for my 12-year-old son.
But then try not running a corrupt.
Journalists and parliamentarians alike have a duty of care, and I ask you to consider this deeply.
The emotionally
I ask you, Mr. Wilkie,
manipulative-
to consider your obligations as a parent,
So do what you like.
as someone who
Media.
desires to uphold what is best for society,
Okay.
and as someone who appears to care deeply about important matters that affect the welfare of the people of this nation. Today we draw a line in the sand. I've said before, we're not a perfect church. There is no such thing. But if you find one, don't invite me, because as soon as I show up, it's no longer perfect.
That's a wow. He's waiting for the applause.
Yeah.
That's
We
wow.
are simply a church which is trying to do our best to be a positive contributor to the communities we are in. We genuinely desire to add value. We believe God loves all people, and so do we. Jesus came to serve, not to be served, and this is our posture. I love our church. I'm not talking about the buildings or the songs or being known or notoriety. I'm talking about the people.
Phil.
I love the people of our church.
Come on, Phil.
I feel your pain, your genuine questions, your desire to trust, the resilience required to keep coming when it feels like one thing after another.
Wow.
I want to thank you for showing up and smiling and serving faithfully and loving Jesus and continuing to pray for our nation of Australia and the nations all around the world.
Oh, you're about to
As
cry,
a
Phil.
church, we will get through this.
Oh, I don't
And
know.
ultimately, we'll be a better version of ourselves.
I don't know if you can be.
We'll not shy away
Yeah,
from
no.
continuing to ask the hard questions and make appropriate changes where
Shying
necessary.
away from the
But
hard
whenever,
work.
And let me give you a clear understanding of what we've already done.
You just said he got king here.
5 things on the
People are
screen.
horrible to him.
and
Number
bashed.
1, a Grant Thornton forensic investigation that began in August 22. The outcomes will be shared with our church at the appropriate
They
time,
like completely.
and we'll take on board the recommendations.
Connect.
Number 2, Hillsong staff voluntary resignation program, which began in September, that reduced our staff numbers and has given us significant annual saving.
Yeah.
A new gifts and honorarium policy implemented in October last year.
They took double
New
the money.
structure and change in culture that is focused on effective mission-focused endeavors.
What's that
And
mean?
launching a third-party evaluation of financial structure and
What's that mean?
processes to ensure they are
Doesn't it?
mission-focused.
Peter Ridley goes Harley bike ride.
If mistakes were made, we will be upfront about them.
Do you not
We
being
will
No,
not
you-
shy
no,
away
bro.
from them.
You
We
said
will
that
own them
everyone
as a
being
church.
mean to you and
I have
These
one
guys-
final story as we
These,
conclude.
these guys don't own their mistakes until they called out.
At the end of last year, I was in our city campus at Waterloo, and we were packing Christmas hampers
I just
with a great bunch of volunteers and team. And I started chatting to the woman serving alongside me. She told me she was from Iran. She told me it's terrible for a woman in her country. They have very little rights at all.
she's like Ben Hill.
She'd made her way to Australia to study. And when she got here, rather than being excited, she felt alone. She felt vulnerable. She didn't feel like she fitted in.
And Hillsong.
She was not a Christian, but had grown up with a different religious faith. And in her moment of emotional pain and loneliness, someone invited her to church,
got her in a weak moment.
and she came.
He got it.
And she told me from that moment, everything changed.
Preying on
She
people's
learned about
insecurities.
Jesus. She gained friendships and community. She no longer feels alone and vulnerable.
Tell me about the people.
She's
who
now a Christian, a follower of Jesus. She's found a spiritual home at our church, and she is loved and supported, and now she loves and supports others.
Did you get a
She is
connection?
confident about her future and is now working and contributing into her adopted country. And that's why we are here.
Is it?
That's our story.
Change their religion.
And that will continue to be our story.
I hope not. Very insulting.
Oh,
So, you know what I mean? What when she's vulnerable and that it change her faith while she's isolated in a
I want to show you an image
hideous predatory
of
film.
an olive tree. It doesn't look like an olive tree right now, as you're going to see on the screen. But it was a gift given to me by Cass and Rich Langton that unfortunately spent too much time in my office instead of where it should be, outside in nutrient-rich soil getting plenty of sunshine.
I can hear a parable.
Guys, right
Oh.
now it's battered a bit. It looks like a stick.
Gonna die, Phil.
It was in the wrong place and its health was affected. But I got our guys from our maintenance team on Friday, earlier this week, and I said, guys, we've got to resurrect this.
yeah, guys, I don't
So
know
they
what
found
to
the
do
right place for it.
I
It's
don't know
kind
how
of
to
near the
plant a
dock
tree
area, and you can
because
walk
I've had my
past it
personal
and pray over it
assistants do
when
all
you
of this
see
for
it.
me for decades.
It's not gonna grow, Phil.
And we're believing its health, by being in the right place, is going to be affected in a positive way.
Lanterns are gone and so's the tree.
I look forward to seeing it grow and flourish over the coming years.
If it dies, does that
And
mean
I
you'll
feel
quit?
the same about our church. We might feel a little battered and bruised right now, but I look forward to seeing our church grow and flourish and get healthier and stronger over the years to come.
Take us.
In Psalm 52 and verse 8, and the worship team can come and join me.
Oh, is this nearly over?
It says this in the New Living Translation. But I am like an olive tree, thriving in the house of God.
Like one of the lanterns.
I will always trust in God's unfailing love. I will praise you forever, O God, for what you have done. I will trust in your good name in the presence of your faithful people. And as Stephen quoted at the end of his statement from the Message in Jeremiah 33, verse 6 to 9, but now take another look. I'm going to give this city a thorough renovation, working a true healing inside out. I'm going to show them life whole, life brimming with blessing. I'll restore everything that was lost to Judah and Jerusalem. I'll build everything back as good as new. I'll scrub them clean from the dirt they've done against me. I'll forgive everything they've done, forgive all their rebellions, and Jerusalem will be a center of joy and praise and glory for all the countries of the earth. They'll get reports of all the good I'm doing for her. They'll be in awe of the blessings I pour on her. I pray that's our story, church.
That's what it's
I pray that's our story.
And he knows that he's not denied a thing.
I haven't shared around our giving today, but I want you to know that our family will be making a significant contribution to our church this week.
Awesome. Is that a guilt offering?
And maybe we'll be the only one, but we'll keep the lights on for at least a week or so.
Oh my Lord.
Just like I said last March, Lucinda and I plan on returning each Sunday and doing whatever is required to serve and build a healthy church, changing lives through Christ. We said it last March, and we're still here saying it again this March. And if there is a March next year, we'll be here saying it again then.
What a guy.
God bless you. Can we stand together?
Wowee. Anything you want to say before I go find a plastic?
Well, good morning, church.
Oh, who's this clown? Turn him off. Turn him off.
Oh dear.
Well, that was quite possibly the worst horror movie I've ever watched.
That one's really bad. That was some serious gaslighting.
Oh my God. But like he didn't address the accusations that were made against Hillsong. All he did was, yeah, that might be true, but look at all the great things we did. Dude, just because you did all of these amazing, wonderful things and changed people's lives doesn't excuse your piss poor behavior.
Well, it's not bad behavior. It's like criminal behavior and just horrific.
Did I hear him right where he said they're turning the pyramid on its head?
Yes.
Like, did they actually admit to being a goddamn pyramid scheme?
Yes. Well, that it's so narrow at the top.
Yikes.
Wow.
That was trash. That was absolutely garbage. You noticed the lack of reaction from the people who were there watching it as well. Like it genuinely felt like people were sitting there with their arms crossed going, yeah, all right, Phil, make more excuses. Let's see what you got this time.
It was weird. If that was Rent a Crowd, they didn't pay them very well. Do you know what I mean?
No, they paid them to sit there and look bland. Like, I just wonder how much of it was a CGI crowd. Maybe there's like a gigantic big green screen wrapped around the building.
It's me. If you ever didn't believe in crisis actors, you do now. Like,
look, here's the thing, and I did kind of said this at the very start when Phil started talking. There's nothing in the Bible that says that you have to love your church.
So weird. The language is so strange.
This whole idea that you have to love your church is just so bad because that's not what you're called to do. You know, I'm sorry, but traveling around the world in business class flights, I guarantee you, when he's taking his second person, whether it's his daughter, his wife, or his personal assistant, I'm curious as to whether or not they're flying business class as well. But here's the thing. Do you reckon Jesus would have flown business class?
But I don't know, like because he didn't have long to live, so he might have. Do you know what I mean? And some widow might have said, "Oh, look, sit in my business class seat."
But do you know what I mean, though? Like, it was never honorariums. Like, okay, great, cool. So you get paid to go and speak. But dude, you are on Hillsong's dime when you're over there. So why are you getting paid to speak while you're already being paid to work? You're being paid twice to do the same job.
Very small, just little, like, sort of
Only
just
$10,000, only $15,000.
things. Like,
Yeah, small amount. It wouldn't even pay for half a business class flight, Tanya.
it's just,
Like,
I mean, the numbers that came out, thousands and thousands. That guy at the start, 30,000 last month to fly back and forth, I think.
Crazy.
Mr. Oh, gentle, crouchy, I'm just a nice guy at the beginning that talks soft.
Like genuine question here. All of the things that they were talking about they've done for South Africa, tell me, what have they done for the AIDS crisis in South Africa, which is worse now than it has ever been?
I'm sure they've got their fingers in some of those pies somewhere that he just
No, they wouldn't talk about that though, because that's the gay disease, and Hillsong don't talk about the gays.
Oh, yes and no.
Because
no, it is a
you
bit
know,
icky though.
no.
It's a bit icky. Whoever gets it, it's a bit icky, especially when it's poor people getting it. They're really over the disabled kids though. Like, get them as vulnerable as you can. No, I'm sure that they're not doing it out of the, taking the shirt off their back. There's they do it.
Taking the Versace shirt off your back. Yeah, I know.
Volunteers and donations, and they put them together, and that's what they use. So
Look, I'm pretty sure when Jesus walked into the temple and he saw grifters trying to take people's money, he flipped tables and lost his shit.
I think they were just trading. I don't even know if they were grifting. They were just using money.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. It's hard to tell from what the scriptures say, but it almost sounds like in the Bible all they were doing was exchanging currencies.
Yeah, they're just trading. They weren't. But you can't do that on the Sabbath. I guess. That's
Maybe. Who knows? Like, all I know is that
was crazy.
That was just a lesson in gaslighting. That was a lesson in how to take responsibility without taking any responsibility.
Yeah, that was. Everything's vague and general and emotional, and the emotional pressure, like.
And look at all the good shit that we've done. Look at all the good things we've done. We've done so much good. Don't look over here. Look at this instead.
I mean, he's a great man. It's a king hit. What a horrible thing to say. Come on.
Oh, they've been king hit from behind. They've been backed. They've been brutalized. Oh, please.
That's not a response.
Dude, I'm sorry, but Christians are not a minority. Christians are not a group of people that need help as a minority. Like,
yeah, it was a complete propaganda thing, and it hurt him not to ask for the giving as well. And Lucinda,
you could tell. You could tell. He almost dipped his toe in, didn't he?
Lucinda and him are keeping the lights on this week.
Oh, yeah.
Disgusting. That's it. That's all I've got to say. Thanks, Phil.
Mind you, every single seat strap in that entire auditorium would have had an envelope with credit card details that can be written onto it, or barcodes around that you could scan so that you can make a payment to Hillsong Church using your Apple Pay on your phone, though. Like, but it's just Phil and Lucinda keeping the lights on.
Keeping the lights on, Phil.
Yeah, because don't forget, he's a lighthouse.
What a liar! He's
a lighthouse. Ugh.
But
also, how many seasons do these clowns have? Like,
that is another manipulation to move along and stuff.
It's a Brianism, isn't it?
Well, there's a time for everything and a season for everything under heaven.
Yeah, it says who was it? Who they were quoting? It wasn't the Bible. It was.
Come on now, Bible college student. You got anything else to say before I hang up and torture myself with the next thought of the next?
Just, if you're not sure if Hillsong is the right place for you, if you're out there listening to what's being said on the stage of this multi-million-dollar facility with the best lighting and sound production quality of any venue in Australia, with beautiful photos with the Hillsong filter across them. It's funny that you can actually tell that it's a photo from Hillsong because they've got the Hillsong filter. But if you're sitting there wondering to yourself whether or not investing your money into a place like that is the right thing to do, let me simply ask you this. Did anything that Phil just addressed speak to your heart and make you go, you know what? This church really does care about their people? Because the entire thing that we just watched for the last hour was an hours long excuse. It's an expanded version of what you say when you've been caught out doing something wrong. I don't know about you, man. Like, there are so many options out there. There are so many great charities out there, like Acon, for example, who really do actually use the money that you give to them to help disadvantaged people, not just disadvantaged people who believe in their version of God, but disadvantaged people. Period.
Care is pastoral care. It's them spreading their message. Like, it's just so explicit. That's what's kind of, if he would even able to say, like he did say, you know, we gave out 6 million meals or whatever. He said they did. I can't remember.
No, but he didn't say they gave out 6 million meals. He said they worked with a group that gave out the meals. They never gave out the bloody meals. They just delivered them.
But do you know what I mean? It's all that vague kind of, and then we work with people like Christine Kane, who I used to go to youth with her charity, A21. Wow, that's not at all close and connected and back scratchy.
Honestly, if you want to know if this place is the place to invest in, go and find these documents. The Andrew Wilkie, Member of Parliament
for the
Australian government. Go, like, read some of these documents, do a bit of research, and have a look at where some of this money is coming from and where it's going to. Have a look at whether or not there's a kickback for Hillsong every time they help out a charity, because I can promise you right now, Hillsong is getting major kickbacks from these charities. Major kickbacks. Yeah. Literally, like, I think Tanya, you and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Something about it feeling like they're auctioning off children.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
You know, like, just your money is better spent giving it to the bloke down the road who clearly hasn't eaten anything for a week than it is giving it to this bunch. At least you know what that bloke's going to use it on.
Yeah, it's still the same old. But we'll see. Ugh. If they change everything, who'll want to stick around? Good night.
Good night. Love you.
Bye, Phil. There you, Phil. Thanks, Lucinda, for keeping the lights on.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.